In 1977, pop culture was changed forever. That's when Atari took the gaming industry, strapped it on a rocket, and lit the fuse. This console sold 30 million units and found its way into almost every American home. I don't think that math adds up, but you get the point. People found themselves for the first time taking a joystick and they were able to engage on the TV and control something electronically for the first time. It consumed us and we just wanted more. So you might have had an Atari back in the day, but maybe haven't played it in 30 years. You have fond memories, perhaps you liked adventure. You probably have fond memories of playing the Atari, but haven't actually had the chance to play an Atari game since you were 8 years old. Believe it or not, this system is still alive and well. People are still making games for it today. Now, Atari hasn't released a game since the early 90s. They were actually releasing games up until then, but they haven't released a game since. They do have plans to release a game very soon, and they're taking pre-orders right now. So even Atari is getting behind this movement right now that is keeping this system alive and well. And you can play Atari right now either for free, or if you want to invest in one of the newer systems, you can absolutely do that. So the good news is Atari is here and you can play it today. What are some of the ways you can play Atari? Well, here are some easy ways that you can play Atari right now. So there is an Atari emulator on the internet called Stella. You can download Stella for your Mac or PC and download Atari games to play on it. I have a video that shows you how to do that. I'll link to that in the notes below. You can also purchase an Atari Flashback. I think they still have these at Target. You can get them. They come with preloaded games, not all of them, but I think the newer ones do come with a good amount of games. This has an HDMI hookup. It can hook right up to your current TV, and you're off and running with some of the most popular Atari games that they made for the time. They're relatively inexpensive, so just hop on Amazon or go to Target and search Atari Flashback, and you'll come up with some results. Another way is this company, Hyperkin, created what's called the Retron 77. This is like an Atari clone. It also hooks up through an HDMI port, so it can go to your current TV. It has an SD slot, so I actually downloaded all the what's called bin files, .bin, for the Atari games, all the Atari games, stuck it on the SD card, and now I have all the Atari games on here. But it also has a cartridge slot. If you have old cartridges from back in the day, you can actually plug them in here, and it works most of the time. They have a classic controller, buttons on each side, so if you're left or right-handed, you can still use this relatively easy. We'll go through this in a little bit more. You can get on eBay or go to a retro gaming store. There are still a lot of retro gaming stores around that sell used units, or you can go on eBay and find an Atari 2600 like I have. You might need an adapter to plug it into the TV. Maybe I should find one and show you. Or you can get one of these adapters. It's just a coax adapter that plugs into the this thing from the Atari. Most TVs, I think, still have some sort of coax on the back, so you just screw that in and you're ready to play. Or I got on eBay and got a modded console that they removed this and put in RCA cables that can plug into most TVs today as well. Also gives a much clearer picture. So yeah, get on eBay. You can just get one of these. They're not a whole lot of money actually. So and you can find tons of games on eBay for relatively cheap prices. Old cartridges you can find. Some are more rare, some are more expensive, but for the most part, you can find good deals on them. And again, you might have some retro gaming stores in your town where you can just go in there and find some old games to purchase. This is also something super cool. This is called a Harmony cartridge with a little SD card that you can plug into it. Remember I said I downloaded all the Atari games and put them on the Retron. or you can download all the Atari games for your PC. Well, you can also put it on this SD card, put it on this cartridge, plug it in, and you all of a sudden have all the Atari games right here on your unit. So this is a pretty cool cartridge. I did a video on this. I'll also put that link in the notes below. And if you're wanting to splurge a little bit and see what Atari has been up to recently, they actually released an Atari VCS system a few years ago. So this is a new modern system. It has new games that you can go online, download, and play. They also have some emulators on here where you can buy a packs of Atari 2600 games and even Atari 5200 games to play on here, and I'll show you that in a little bit. What I think is the coolest part about the Atari now is people are still making new games. For example, Deep Stone Catacomb came out a couple years ago. You can look at the art on the box, on the back, looks, feels, acts like Atari. This is a fantastic game. Also did a video on this if you're interested in seeing what this game's all about. I'll put the link in the show notes. Here's one from Muddy Vision. Obviously they were Activision fans. If you recall the Activision boxes and art style, this nails it. You don't get a better replicate. They did a good job on the game too. It feels like an Activision game. Speaking of Activision, remember Pitfall? That was programmed by David Crane. He co-founded Activision. And Pitfall was one of everybody's favorite games if you had an Atari 2600. He just released a new Atari game not long ago. It's called Circus Convoy. You can buy it today, plug it into your Atari 2600 and play some of David's latest creations. There's still a few more coming out from the Activision guys. They have a few more games planned to be released. For the most part, you can find a lot of these games off of an Atari game publisher called Atari Age. So just go to atariage.com. There's a forum where you can talk all about Ataris, read about new games coming up, download demo files that you can use on any of these systems where you can put the bin files on a cartridge and play those right now. So Atari Age has a great store where you can buy tons of new Atari games. You can get them with the box or without a box after they've been out for a year. So you can choose, how much you want to spend basically. I think on average, new games still cost about $50. When you don't get the box, I believe they go down to like 30, 35 or something. I do a little bit of both. I get the ones that are new that I really want to play. I'll buy them with the box because the first year that's the only way you can actually get the new games. And if they're a little older, sometimes I opt not to get the box. I know a lot of the collectors have to have the box, but I don't really care. So what's also cool, like, how many of you loved this game, Adventure? This was one of my favorite games for the Atari. It was the first game where you got to explore. And that exploration just ignited something into me. It was like D&D, Dungeons and Dragons on TV. It was like Raiders of the Lost Ark put into a cartridge, which actually there was a Raiders of the Lost Ark game that came out later, and that was also one of my favorite games. But if you loved this game and want more, there's tons of new adventure games you can buy. So like Adventure Plus, this is just a new version of this game. New maps, new mazes, but it's like playing the game for the first time. There's also a few games based on adventure, but they actually enhanced it, made it a little better in a lot, made it more complex, upgraded the graphics, but there's tons of those. For example, Evil Wizard 2 was an adventure style game. There's also one called Epic Adventure. I also did videos on those in the show notes below, but check this out. Halo for the Atari 2600. Somebody made a game inspired by Halo, and it actually is a pretty good game. Here's what the Deep Stone Catacomb game looks like. Again, looks just like an Atari game back from the day, right? This is cool. Dungeon, great little RPG game for the Atari. And then you get just really great new games, just games that are way better than what they were, for at the time. One reason is because the ROM on the original cartridges were very limited. There are expanded cartridges now with a little bit more ROM. It's not tons because the system itself has very limited RAM, so you can't do anything about that. So you still, these games still feel Atari-esque. New games for days. There's so many, and I love playing them all. And I still play some modern systems and games, but I find myself on the Atari most of the time, and that's because new games are really a time investment. Most of them have a learning curve you have to get through, so you have to learn to play the game. And if you do play, then you need to dedicate time to it. You need like an hour of gameplay or more. With these games, I can just take one, plug in, play for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and be done. And are the graphics bad? Yeah, relative to what you see on new games, but they're fine. I mean, it's a game. Are graphics bad on a deck of cards? I mean, you're still having fun. You're still playing a game and having fun with it. And at the same time, yeah, the graphics might leave a little bit more to the imagination, but that's kind of cool. Your imagination fills in the rest for you. Rather than new games, you have to take what you see for what it is, where when you're playing an Atari game, it's almost like reading a book. You make up the rest of the scenario in your head, and it leaves more to the imagination, and I think makes it a little bit better that way. It's more fun, like how you get into a book. When you watch a movie, you see the characters, and you have to take them for what they're showing you. But again, when you read that book and you make up that whole world inside your head, it's a little more endearing to you. Same thing with the games. Well, I made a mess here, so let's jump on a few of the systems and I'll show you a little bit about what I was talking about on the various systems here. The original Atari VCS sold 30 million consoles, and I think this one also sold 30 consoles. So, I mean, honestly, I'm not sure if I even found much of a use for this system yet. But you see, it opens up with your profile. And you can see I have many games on my dashboard. So you can download Atari 7800 games, Atari 2600 games, or even 5200 games. So let's go to the Atari VCS Vault. Okay, here we go. So I just opened up the Atari VCS Vault. So, you know what sucks is I'm going to have to mute the music out here because it flags copyright on it. You can scroll through all the games included in this here. There's quite a few. Let me find a good one. Good old Yar's Revenge. David Warshaw was the developer of this. Funny guy. If you have not read his book, Once Upon Atari, I do recommend. It's hilarious. There we go. And look, it plays just like the original game. I died. But not only can you play old Atari games on here, they are making games, new games for this system. So I told you you can go on eBay and search Atari 2600 and you can find some on eBay there. I have a couple. So you can get that, hook it up to an old CRT TV. I love this TV, by the way. It was actually made in 2007 from Brazil when they were still using CRT TVs there. But since it was a more modern TV, it actually has component cable hookups in the back. So I can actually use the component cables for the Xbox and hook it up to this TV for an outstanding picture. I'm gonna go ahead and flip on the old Atari. Miss Pac-Man comes right up. Jump in, play right away. No load times or anything. This is still a solid Atari 2600 game. Good port of the original. All right, one other thing I wanted to show you on the Atari system here was the Harmony cartridge that I mentioned earlier. You just plug it in like a normal cartridge, turn it on, and all the games that you downloaded onto that SD card appear here. So I can go into homebrews. I added some of the homebrews onto the card, so I can play Princess Rescue, which is a Mario style game for the Atari. That's kind of cool. Now how cool is this? Ah, I messed that part up. Anyway, that's pretty cool, right? Turn it back on and off. Go back to the menu. I have a folder called Original 2600. You can go into any of these folders and, well, pick the game you want to start playing. It's exactly just like using the cartridge, except all the games are accessible in one cartridge. Messed that up. Anyway, all right, next I'm going to show you the Retron 77. I have it plugged into my LG flat screen here. Again, it has a HDMI input, so you can plug it into any modern TV. I'm putting it up here. I usually have it down here just so you can see what's going on. It's a little awkward because I have it plugged into a DVR also, so I can record games that I review. I'm going to flip it on. That should access the SD card that's in the system and bring up the interface to play those games. There we are. So here are the games that I have on here. Again, alphabetical, so I can go through any of these. Let's bring up A. Here's in alphabetical order all the games that I have installed, and again, I installed all the Atari games, so you can scroll through and pick whatever one you want and start playing immediately. Most of these games you have to hit that little reset button to start. Oops, that's a different mode. There we go. This game is for time, making it to the end and as quick as time as possible. Having to go through each of the barns. One left. Avoiding the windmills. And then you land. Did it in 50 seconds basically. So the point is to do that again and try to beat your time, or give it to your friend and have them try to beat it. Classic Activision game. Not the most exciting game, but it's cool. What we'll do now that you see how that worked, is try the cartridge slot. So you can we'll do one of the new games, Adventure Plus. Plug that right in there. I'll record it on the DVR now so you can see. So now you should be seeing that. I'm going to go ahead and start the game. We'll put it on level 2. Start. So starts out like Adventure, except you'll notice it feels familiar, but the maze is different. So it's like experiencing adventure all over again. Saw the sword over here, so we're gonna snag that. The damn bat. Well, I got the key. That'll give me. Let me open the castle I just came from. If the bat doesn't come back, how do I get back over there? Nothing. Anyway, you get the point on that. So let's jump to the last one that I was showing you, and that's the Atari Flashback. Just turn the flashback on here. Once you turn on the Atari Flashback, you get the interface here where you would use your controller to scroll through the games. And in between recordings, I went ahead and got on Amazon and I searched Atari Flashback, and the first result was the Atari Flashback 50th Anniversary Edition. So celebrating Atari's 50 years, they made a flashback, and it actually has 130 games on it. So most likely we'll have most of the games that you had as a kid, so you can just jump right in there and basically play almost any game you want. Well, you can play any game out of those 130. That's a pretty good amount of games for the flashback. I think most of them came with like 20 or something, I can't remember. You can buy the Atari Flashback. It's under $90. You get 130 games with it. It comes with controllers and everything, so I think that's a pretty good deal. You can hook it up to any modern TV. It has an HDMI hookup, so go to Amazon, go to Target, get you a flashback, and you could be playing Atari tonight. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I helped you find some nostalgia in the Atari VCS, Atari 2600 game system that you loved a long time ago but probably haven't played in 30 years. They're still making games. The system's still alive and kicking. If you are one of those people that had no idea this video game system was even still accessible, let me know in the comments. And if you do start to play any of the games, also let me know. I want to hear from anybody that I might have helped out reclaim their childhood in these video games, and I really hope you enjoy. So we'll catch you on the next video. Please subscribe. I would certainly appreciate that, and we'll see you on the next video.